Dai I no hocha na I kanakai joy ahaya tokosha I. Coming in through center, please. As we appear here, kota I shoya through these sacral ranges. Doro kosha I jano hoyacha I chao koya. Wow, there's such an excitement. These actually feel like feminine energies. Atokosha I. There's a sense that they are coming into, it's like peer through koshai, almost like on the other side of some kind of like a membrane, like so close but still on the other side. And it feels like, if I think about it in the energy field, it almost feels like it's on the inside of my body and it's trying to move through to be here in this physicality. This feels like an organic intelligence. No, organic, I don't know what the difference would be. An organic intellectualism. So, which is funny because we talk about intellectualizing rather than feeling the emotions. And yet here it's about looking at what is actually so within the energy field and actually specifically within the body. Because my intention to come into here today was to look at these physical, I don't know how quite to describe it. It's like a physical experience that we would have consistently suffered as children. So the way that it was coming up through me, what was experienced consistently in my childhood that caused a feeling physically over and over of suffering was this coldness. So in my home growing up, the heat was set to turn on at a specific time. And somehow it was supposed to correlate with when my dad got up. For some reason, I was always up the earliest. And so instead of turning on the heat, my mother would put a space heater in the bathroom for me to get dressed. And I just remember always being so cold, like chilled to the bone. And this was every day of my life during the winter, when I would have to get up and get ready for school, to the point now where I've started to realize I get really upset when I am cold, especially when I'm trying to sleep or I cannot get warm or I don't have control over the thermostat, something like this. So it's a place of feeling imprisoned within the physical body, because it was a physical experience that was very prevalent and consistent over a long period of time. So this is what we're looking at. I know for my partner, his is around food, around feeling hungry. That was a huge issue in his home growing up. And so now it's turned into almost an obsession. Before he goes to sleep, he has to make sure that he is full. He has to make sure that there is food in his house when he is sleeping. So again, these physical experiences, or the lack of availability of physical resources, which affected the physical body, but more than that, right, at a cellular and emotional level, how this triggers feelings of scarcity and lack. Okay, it's really hard. Like, there is no label for this kind of wound yet, I don't think, that I've ever heard anyone use. So I really had to just explain it from a very human perspective. But if I were to label this, I suppose I would call it this. It's like a physical environment, a wound, these wounds around scarcity, which translate into physical pain, habitual patterns, physiological responses to imprisonment, and torture. around the scarcity of resources. Jano koshai, chato koshai. Physical torture around scarcity of resources. Jato koshai, chato koyakatai. Okay. Physical torture and emotional suffering around scarcity of resources. Taro koshai, chano yachashi. So let's clear through the brainstem and let's come into the sacral. Daro koshai, chokoyata hi chiahona. So yeah, these energies that felt so excited to show up here, all of a sudden they're like, wow, the gravity of this, the sadness, chokoshai, that this incorporates into the emotional well-being factor, koshai, choya, chahata. Okay, so let's start to dial in here. There's like a sacral response, chano koro koshai, chatokoya. Oh, it's interesting because it does have this feeling of a thermostat, right? Like we are set at a certain temperature in terms of what we can tolerate, in terms of even our emotions, chakoto. Even if it's happiness, right? It's almost like there's a happiness factor. If we get too far over, it's like it triggers the energy field. Daro koshai. Let's clear through the backside of the heart here with this. Jano koro koshai. Do koshai chaya chohokotai. Where we always have to be showing up within a certain range of specificity. Dokasha icha dokasha icha koya chashaki dohoya, this band. Okay. So we are breaking from these rules, dakasha icha, that have been set in place. Chakato shashi shanaki. Jahono yachashi jahotai chakaya. So bringing source light here to the left side of, it's the back of the neck, it's below the brainstem here, but it feels like it goes up into the nerve. So there's some kind of point here in the spine. Jokoshai. We're going to follow these nerves back. It's within the feminine ranges here. Janoro koshai. There's an energy of cellular anticipation. Jakato oshashi shanaki chahoyacha. So let's see where this goes back to. Jakotai. This feeling of encampment, being held. Yeah, it's like a cellular response, or a cellular response through the tissues of the body. These levels of restriction. Let's come here into the stomach lining. Okay, there, really, really good release here. And into the top of the heart. There's a release through the chest as well. Okay, good. Oh, wow. It's not the fascia. There seems to be another network here. Okay, actually, it feels to run in the sheathing of the nerves. At least that seems to be kind of the conductor for these energies here. So the hana good. All right, and coming into the right side of the brainstem here, let's adjust. Let's bring in more light to buffer. Softening. Okay, and so where we may not realize that our energy field is scanning ahead for these occurrences, Jatoko is so subconscious. Okay, so this is just coming to me now, and I understand now why I brought up my own experiences here, because we'll use the food example here, right? Like if there is a subconscious range of destitution around food, we can understand that in the sense of someone may always be hypervigilant about, what do I have in my refrigerator? Where are we going to be able to stop for food? Okay, after we do this thing, I know I will be hungry, so I'm already scanning, like, where are we going to be? Where's the food? It's like a hypervigilance that's running in the back of the mind all the time, calculating where, when, and then as another example, using this, like sleeping and being cold, am recognizing now when I actually walk into a room, like I'm thinking even of my boyfriend's apartment, what is so triggering about it is that he does not sleep with a lot of blankets, right? So when I walk into his bedroom, his bed is basically, to me, it looks stripped bare. And that to me is very triggering. I never really realized this. I thought when I'm looking at it, it just looks like it's so plain, like it doesn't feel very homey. But really what I'm responding to is the lack of blankets, right? Or the lack of insulation or the lack of potential warmth that I would be able to find in this environment. And it actually triggers it feel, I mentioned this word earlier, encampment, but this sense of imprisonment, the sense of torture, okay, let's come into all of the nerves that run through the vertebrae, but especially around the heart center in the back here, like it's almost, I want to call these reptilian functions. So I don't know that we're talking necessarily about just like these autonomic nervous system responses. It feels deeper than this. And again, it's not even just like basic fundamental needs like food and warmth. These fields feel very targeted, because it does seem to be targeting then this sense of feeling fulfilled, feeling comfortable, feeling settled, feeling abundant. Because I'm thinking even over the last week, how so many of my decisions, like for example, I had to take my car into the shop and I was going to, at one point I was going to leave it there and I was going to walk home. And so I was trying to determine which day would be better, when would it be warmer, so I wouldn't have to be as cold as I was walking home. But then there was another day I was taking it in and I was going to get a ride anyway. And yet I was still trying to figure out what would be most comfortable in terms of the weather. It was very strange. So it's like a subconscious driver now, within the field. So let's just start to open through the horizontal ranges. Let's open into all experiences through a physical vessel, and energetically wherever the field is experiencing lack, suppression, restriction, in relation to fundamental resources, in relation to availability of fundamental resources. And even here, we're going to add in, because we wouldn't even think of this in this realm, right? But the availability of emotional resources in terms of love and adoration, those are considered basic foundational needs, and where like that has even been almost written out of what is a basic necessity here at a physical level. So merging here, basic human needs. And this isn't basic as in what is the least minimal amount. It is basic in the sense of what is the amount required to feel fulfilled, not survive. What is the amount required in order to thrive? That we retool and reset this range, this thermostat here. Taro kosha I chano koro kosha I. Yeah, through the left side of the field. Ahono ota ich kisha kasha ich ota ich shaki. Choto kasha. Good. So softening. Toro koro kashna ich kosha. Coming into the belly here. Kota isha I. Coming into the tissues, into the lining, within all of the organs. Chao kosha I. This responsiveness, the network of the human body, where the human body feels that it had to choose and prioritize its needs. There's room, there is space, and there is time for all needs to be equally present, equally validated, equally fulfilled. Good. So coming into the center of the backside of the heart here, into the spine. Yep, something about this autonomic nervous system. Let's release this triangulation here, where we are still set to the same points in childhood. Clearing through the mind, breathing in and reimagining peace, comfort, stability, availability. Jato kosha I shanaki shasha. As it is so.